Best friend, 35F, complains about her selfish husband to me, 28F. Leaving me angry each time. Hi all, first time posting, so apologies if the format is wrong. My dearest friend, 35F, has been in what I personally feel is an abusive relationship for 2 years. She will tell me stories of how he mistreats her, and when I am in their company I can see the way that he neglects her and their child. Over time, I have developed nothing but negative emotions for my best friend's husband, to the point that I feel physically angry each time she vents to me. As I feel like she is not standing up for herself in the relationship, I get quite riled up emotionally each time she tells me situations where I feel she has clearly been taken advantage of. She herself sees this, but as they have a young child she feels that staying in the relationship is the better option. But she has also said that she has tried many times to speak to him about changing his behavior, but is at the point where she finds discussing the matter tiresome and pointless and would just rather put up with it. She will continually share her negative experiences with me, but also has the expectation that I not react negatively, as for her that reinforces the fact that she married the wrong man. I also don't have any intention of adding insult to injury, but I am finding it increasingly difficult to keep my feelings to myself. I once tried to address the matter with her in asking if she could try and leave the husband out of discussions. She mentioned that I was the only person I could vent to and didn't want to have to censor our chats. I feel that she would withdraw if I put any more pressure on her. I want her to have a safe place to talk, but it's also really affecting me badly, as each time it leaves my blood boiling to know my dearest friend is being mistreated, and sometimes I let it slip. Really looking to this wise community for some advice. Thanks in advance, smile. Too long didn't read. Best friend tells me negative issues with her husband, often leaving me quite angry. She wants me to listen without passing any judgment. Want to be supportive but needs some advice on how to better handle the situation. You need to be honest about how these stories make you feel. Listen, you know I love you and your child so much, but the way your husband treats you is abusive. And being raised around this abuse will damage your child's views of how a healthy relationship should look and how women should be treated. It is extremely upsetting to listen to story after story of how this man is hurting you and damaging your child. Love you and want you to be happy, but that is not possible while you continue to be in this relationship. More stories of his abuse towards you will not change my mind on this. I am here for you and will help support you in any way I can when you decide to leave. But until then I must insist for my own mental health that you no longer discuss this topic with me. And then stick to it. If she brings it up again, you can say you know how I feel about this. Please change the topic. She needs to know you love her and are there for her, but she is letting her husband's abuse poison her friendship with you. Eventually she will see that she needs to leave. She wants a free therapist. You're not her emotional dumping ground. She wants you to be. She doesn't want to have a conversation with you, she wants to talk at you. It's my opinion that she's getting stuff from you that she isn't getting in her relationship: patience, understanding, sympathy, so you may actually be prolonging the abusive marriage by propping her up. She wants to deny that she married the wrong man and wants you to play along with this fantasy. Read Why Does He Do That?, which you can Google a free version of. At the end there is info on how to help. Even if he is not actively hitting her, which is where the main research comes from, it gives valuable insight into the mindset of an abuser. And while the how to help section is slim, it is there. I mean, she doesn't want to censor her chats to you but wants you to censor your reaction, and that's not fair. Tell her that you're a person with your own opinions, and that if she wants a judgment-safe person to speak with, she needs a journal or a therapist. It's not fair for her to pour all of her negative emotions into you and then for her to just expect you to not react negatively or want her to make a change. Thanks guys, I did kind of have to step back and reassess when I realized it was her expectation that I not react. But I did want to get a second opinion as I wasn't sure if I was actually the one overstepping. I, 26F, feel misled by my fiancé, 26M, regarding his past relationship. How do I deal with it? Should I accept his apology and move on? I, 26F, got engaged to my fiancé, 26M, close to 2 months ago. We had been together for a bit over a year, the majority of which we spent long distance as he lives in a different country. Update: we spent 3 months getting to know each other on proper dates on an almost daily basis before going long distance, and he came back to the country due to COVID for a couple of months prior to our engagement in August. As context, we mesh very well together and have barely even had an argument over the course of our relationship. He vehemently chased me with very kind and romantic gestures, even though I am more guarded and not as expressive. I have been very trusting of him throughout our relationship, and he has not shown me any reason to displace his trust. To the contrary, he has been very transparent, kind, loving and romantic. When we discussed our past relationships, he told me that he only had one serious relationship, for 2 years, with a girl in his country when he was at university. He characterized her as having been obsessed with him. He is admittedly very attractive and successful, and pressurizing him into the relationship. She was from a different culture that his parents, which his parents would never have approved her. However, he said that he left her as he never really cared for her, disliked many aspects of her personality, and never saw a future with her, causing him to leave her for reasons other than his parental approval. He also told me that he informed his father of her after they broke up, once again emphasizing that he left her for reasons of his own. He often writes me love poems and, voluntarily, stated that he has never written a poem for anyone before. He also told me that after they broke up, she stalked him, sent him threats, would sleep outside the door of his house, etc., which led to him wanting to get a restraining order. Accordingly, he consistently called her crazy and creepy. I never asked for details of the relationship, any more than the information that he would volunteer every once in a while, which was all negative. For my part, I disclosed the entirety of my dating history and told him that I have never had a serious relationship before. I spoke to him extensively about the guy I dated before him and gave him the full picture, good and bad. Fast forward to our engagement, we had been very private about our relationship, mostly because I do not like publicizing relationships or being public on social media. After he insisted, a few weeks ago, we each posted pictures of our engagement on our Instagram accounts as our first announcement. He did not tag me in his picture because he didn't want me to receive messages from his followers. We discussed various reactions to our post, looking through likes, mentioning reactions of people we had dated, talking about the reactions of relatives, etc. A few days ago, we both got drunk and we're talking. He started talking about his ex. For the first time, it was in a positive light. He started saying how she wanted him to be the best version of himself, she made him who he is today, she was so sweet, etc. He also said that he approached his parents about her to see their reaction, which directly contradicted his earlier statements. Then, he mentions that she sent him a message forwarded through a friend of hers, as he has her blocked, immediately after our engagement post, cussing him out and said that she'd punch me if she ever sees me when I move to his country. I asked him why he didn't tell me about the message. We had been seeing each other every single day for the past month and had extensive conversations about exes and reactions. I then asked him to show me the message. He said he blocked her friend, but I told him that should not delete the message. He then told me to look through his phone if I didn't believe him. I told him I don't want to look through his phone, I just want him to pull up the message. He then forced his phone into my hand and told me to look through. He wouldn't take it back when I tried to give it back, so eventually I asked who I am supposed to be searching for. When I found the name, there was no message, so I just gave him back the phone. He then lost his temper, called me crazy for looking through his phone. When I told him not to use that word and that I did not look through his phone, he said he liked crazy and that crazy turned him on. I pulled away when he tried to hug me after that, so he got up and just left my house. Before storming out, he turned it into me being insecure and saying how he chose me and that he only wrote her one poem, whereas he has written me over 40 poems in the space of a shorter period. Also contradicting what he said before. I also noticed other minor contradictions between what he told me when we first started dating and what he says now, about other girls that he has dated. This is my first serious relationship and he has generally been amazing to me. He is thoughtful about everything that I say, goes out of his way to be nice to me and my family, welcomed me into his family, writes me poetry every week, buys me gifts constantly, opens the door for me every chance that he gets, etc. I am generally much more guarded that he is and not expressive about my emotions. He was very patient with me and never made me feel bad about that. A few months ago, when we spent a lot of time together in the same country, after we made engagement arrangements, he proposed, but the arrangements are made through families in our culture. I felt like a subconscious guard was lifted and I was able to fully open up to him because I could properly trust him. That is why these contradictions hurt me, as I feel like the very foundation of what helped me open up is being pulled out from under me if he could so easily mislead me for a year. When contradictory information, such as the fact that he approached his parents about marrying this girl from a different culture, is revealed to me, it feels like that was purposefully covered up. We had a long and emotional fight about it all, our first real fight. I told him that I do not care about his past, but what I care about is how he represents the past to me. He admitted that he was very wrong in giving me a false impression, but that his relationship was too toxic and difficult to discuss. I told him that this statement would have been enough for me 1 year ago, as I would not have pried or asked any further questions. I had not asked any questions throughout the year. Instead, I let him tell me what he was comfortable with. He told me that he fell in love at first sight and that he never thought a girl like me would have existed in his culture, which he mentioned before. So he wanted to do everything possible to make me fall in love with him, to feel 1/10 of what he felt towards me. I appreciated that, and I do feel like it was true based on our history, but I still have a problem with feeling misled. I obviously understand not wanting to reveal intense details about a past relationship at the start of dating someone, but my problem is the needless lying about certain details. I told him that there was no need to mention details of the past relationship at all if he was not ready to open up at the start of our relationship. It would have been better than drawing a picture of him not being interested in someone he once considered marrying. Even after he apologized countless times, admitted he was wrong for making misrepresentations, as well his reaction of calling me crazy, I still feel very upset, and I feel like the subconscious guard in my head that stopped me from getting close to him or others in the past is back up. I do not know how to deal with this. I have barely spoken to him in 2 days, after usually seeing him on a daily basis, and I do not feel as comfortable with him as I once was, despite him being genuinely kind to me and me loving him. This is my first real relationship fight, so my questions are, is it normal to feel this way after a big fight? How do I move on from this? Should I accept his apology and move on? Is it wrong to keep holding this over his head despite his apology? Also, he has not sent me the message from his ex that he promised that he would send me. Should I be insisting to see it? Too long didn't read. My fiancé spent over a year describing his only ex-girlfriend as crazy, said that he left her because he never cared for her, irrespective of the fact that his family would not have approved of her. Yet, now he switched the narrative to reveal contradictory facts and failed to show me a recent message she sent him after we made our engagement public. He apologized and admitted that he was wrong, but I still feel misled. Do I accept his apology and move on? And is it wrong to insist on seeing a recent message from his ex regarding our engagement? Update: to clarify, we're from an Arab country, but this is not an arranged marriage. We dated for 3 full months, seeing each other on a daily basis, before our relationship became long distance. He visited me every 2 months since. Due to COVID, he came back in June, and I have seen him on an almost daily basis since June and prior to our engagement in August. Though, it is not a question of an arranged marriage. We dated, spoke a lot, and got to know each other well. Update: to everyone describing him as a narcissist, I do not know much about it, but he does not seem to have some basic narcissistic qualities. I have seen him in interpersonal conflicts before, with his father and his sister, and he always owns up to his own mistakes and faults, never mistreating them. Also, he goes out of his way to help people, such as his own sister, in various circumstances, despite me knowing that it inconvenienced him, which is why I was not suspicious of his kindness and affection towards me, even though it did come off strong. In my experience, if someone describes their exes as crazy, they are guaranteed to describe you the same way. Crazy is such a generic term, it could mean almost anything, the primary meaning being that the crazy woman's emotions are not valid. That is exactly how he used it with you, so this sounds like a consistent behavior with him. Expect it to happen whenever you criticize him in a particular way that triggers his defensiveness. It is a way to distract you from what you are asking about. It derails the conversation and puts you on the defensive instead. I think your head is in the right place. You'll never know everything he has lied about in his past relationships, but now you know how he reacts to confrontation. He obviously deleted the message but was unwilling to admit that, then attacked you for going along with his idea of giving you his phone. People with difficult personalities sometimes will cover it up by love bombing early in the relationship to make you feel amazing, then try to lock it down with marriage or kids as quickly as possible before you see who they really are. Once you are locked in, the real person will come out. Google love bombing and gaslighting to see the dynamics involved. All this over-the-top flattery comes across as insincere. Loves you 10x more than you love him? What does that even mean? He showers you with poems and gifts, which is nice but doesn't give you any indication of what kind of teammate he will be when things are difficult. I'm not saying run for the hills. Just keep your eyes open and don't let him distract you with attacks and flattery, alternating rejection and extreme claims of love. Observe what happens when you disagree about things. Observe how he reacts to the other people close to him when they get into a conflict. You're not gonna like hearing this, but marrying this guy would be a huge mistake. Your fiancé is very good at romancing you, the gifts, the poetry, etc. But that does not mean he is a good person. The fact that he lied to you about his ex is evidence of him being untrustworthy, and that whole "I'll force you to go through my phone. No, you're the crazy one." It's just weird and manipulative. You should really be cautious about moving forward with this relationship. It seems that you like him for the things that he does for you and not his actual character, which is incredibly alarming. Don't sign your life away to a controlling, manipulative man just because he showers you with nice things. We had been together for a bit over a year, the majority of which we spent long distance as he lives in a different country. First mistake. Right after this you say you've never had any major problems, get along really well, etc. But you haven't been together long enough, and you've never even lived close or lived together. To the contrary, he has been very transparent. Directly contradicts the rest of your post. After we made engagement arrangements, he proposed, but the arrangements are made through families in our culture. I felt like a subconscious guard was lifted and I was able to fully open up to him because I could properly trust him. You really shouldn't be trusting someone completely after getting engaged. This should be towards the beginning of the relationship. Yours is built on weak/wrong foundations. It feels like that was purposefully covered up. The thing is, he was. Is this really who you want to spend the rest of your life with? This is my first real relationship fight, so my questions are, is it normal to feel this way after a big fight? The thing is, this isn't a normal fight. It's about tons of other things. It's about underlying issues from your relationship, running into engagement, not knowing each other well enough, him lying about his past relationship, and other things, probably, him mistreating you and calling you crazy, the pressure from your culture because you should be engaged, etc. etc. Accordingly, he consistently called her crazy and creepy. He called you crazy too. Do you realize this? He then lost his temper, called me crazy for looking through his phone. After he pressured you into looking and you didn't find anything, because he deleted it. He's gaslighting you. He's lying to you. This'll only get worse in the long run. Please reconsider. It to answer Askreddit, so he owns up to mistakes with others but not with you? I'm not going to tell you there's anything wrong with the timeline for dating and marriage in your culture, but I will say that if you are evaluating someone on a shorter timeline, you have to come down harder when you see a red flag, because you don't have time to wait and see. Your biggest danger is underreacting, not overreacting, which he is trying to convince you that you're doing with words like crazy. If you still want to move forward with this guy, Your best bet is to see his reacting when you insist on more time before marriage to get to know each other better. You learn a lot more about what life will be like in the long term from disagreements than you do from romantic dinners. Be sure this is someone you can work through problems with. And an apology is only an apology if it involves admission of fault as well as observable commitment to change. You will only be able to see that over time. Saying I'm sorry is not a free pass, it's the beginning of an apology, not the end. I, 25F, unknowingly started dating my cousin's 27F, ex, 27M, and now her and her parents are demanding I publicly break up with him. I've been dating my boyfriend for a year now. Things have been perfect until recently. Last week, my boyfriend and I were at my parents' house when my cousin and her mom showed up. My cousin immediately freaked when she saw my boyfriend and my aunt started screaming at him. She kept demanding to know what he was doing here. Turns out my boyfriend was the horrible ex my cousin is always ranting about. My cousin and I aren't close at all. Before my boyfriend broke up with her 3 years ago, I would see her maybe once a year, if that. After the breakup, most of her friends ditched her and she started spending more time with family. We still aren't close, though. She would always tell us about how her horrible ex kicked her out of his apartment when she was jobless and had nowhere else to go after being together for 2 years. My boyfriend's story is a little bit different. He said his ex was a gold digger who tried to baby trap him as soon as he let her move in with him. He said he knew her parents lived close by, so he wasn't making her homeless since she could have easily moved back in with them. My boyfriend and I ended up leaving my parents' house that day because my cousin was getting hysterical. They've since been calling and texting me every single day demanding I break up with him. They want me to make the breakup public, either in front of our family, his family or his friends, because apparently my cousin had thought he was going to propose to her and had told everyone, only for him to break up with her a few days later. My cousin and her parents want him to feel the embarrassment and hurt he made her feel. I don't want any part in their plans for revenge, but I also don't know what to do. I know it's not a good idea to date an ex of a family member, but I'm already too emotionally invested in him to make the clear choice. My boyfriend said if I wanted to break up over this he would understand. What should I do? Too long didn't read. My cousin had a bad ex who dumped her and kicked her out of his apartment 3 years ago, after a 2-year relationship. Turns out her ex is my current BF, of 1 year. My cousin and her parents now want me to publicly break up with him as he embarrassed her when he broke up with her. She had told everyone they were about to be engaged only to get dumped a few days later. You've been dating a year now. Has he been a bad boyfriend? Has he displayed any of the horrible traits your cousin spoke of? Or, is your cousin a wackadoodle that loves drama and he had enough of her and put her out of his life? The fact that they want revenge and embarrassment puts their entire story in doubt. These are over-the-top, petty, dramatic people. Listen to your gut. I mean honestly, the fact that your family demands it be a public breakup tells me all I need to know about the situation. This isn't oh he is a bad dude, it isn't even I can't believe you are dating my ex who I still love. This is revenge. I want to humiliate him. It sucks for your cousin, but you need to make your decision based on your relationship. If you want out you have an easy out here, but if you want to be with this guy then go for it. Your cousin will probably get over it. It has been years anyway and you had no malicious intent at the start of the relationship, so you are in the clear with this internet stranger. You're not close with the cousin and your boyfriend broke up with her 3 years ago. Regardless of how badly their relationship ended, this is in the past and you had no idea that this involved your now boyfriend. The parents are being absolutely fucking ridiculous. Their behavior is completely inappropriate, and also please, their daughter is in her mid-20s as are you. This is none of their business. You do what's right for you. Maybe don't talk to these people for a while. You weren't close anyway. Just because you're somewhat related it doesn't mean they get to decide who you date. I will not be breaking up with him over this. Please stop calling/texting me regarding it.